차! Like a mountain goat. I'm used to walking with a mountain goat. He leaves me well behind. Yeah. Yeah.
Very clever. Yeah, really good. Okay, see you. Bye.
Bye bye.
这马写的都是别说的工作是吧？啊。
Thank you.
Ela cumprimentava o Vitor. Please.
나도 냠도 북바 간적마
간적
저기엔
아우
아니라 나도 냠도 Okay, I go out only.
Vai estar
I found one. It was on sale. I don't remember the price, but
Dando la vuelta, dando la vuelta, dando la vuelta, dando la vuelta. Qué bueno. Long time, eh?
내년 더 시험 어디 봐. 받으면 때문에. 그래. 내년 좀. 아, 저거 돼서.
저거 돼서. 저거 돼라. 어떤 나 저거 돼. 야, 뭐든 나가서 싶어.
Not that one. No, she doesn't. But the men didn't mind.
Not so fast.
No.
Wait. Hello.
No. Yeah. Oh, here, look. No sé, ¿no ves? Yeah, look. Yeah.
Estamos en un paso alto. Hoy es día 24.
You're gonna mean you carefully maybe? Carefully copy and just
No, it's referring to the non-arising of thoughts.
so not carefully. I see like this.
But you have to be careful with that regarding the context. What is it?
This again on the poem. It's at the end of the poem. Song 17, instructions, aphorisms on the way to jokes, on the path to jokes. At the very end, trapped by the concept of desired thoughtlessness, the fighting thoughts are multiplied. And within
No, that's right. Of a thought-free mind.
free mind,
Right, striving for a thought-free mind, thoughts are multiplied.
Not a few of them. Some of the sentences could be quite long. It's like one sentence a paragraph.
Yes, it's just Tibetan.
Song 20. Song 21. On 21 song, secondary practices and advices. You use contact behavior.
Yes, the ultimate option is that there's no distinction in obstacles and non-obstacles, of course. And whatever arises in the mind is the same potential for illumination, and the awareness inherent in every perception, inside or outside, is identical, and it's the nature of mind, and it's Rigpa. Now, in the process of recognizing emotions as obstacles, recognizing emotions as the nature of mind, then there is a certain release of energy. Once we're in the process of recognizing negative emotions as pure awareness, then there is energy released. And that energy is a dynamic of mind. And because it's understood as pure awareness, it's a radiance, a positive radiance and light, and something not desirable exactly, but certainly acceptable, totally acceptable. That goes for all emotions whatsoever. Usually in Buddhism we simply identify 5 particular syndromes as emotions: the anger, the desire, the pride, the jealousy, and the fear. Those 5. We don't positive emotions are in a different category actually. It's those 5 which, in the recognition of their nature as pure and clear and compassionately motivated, in that recognition, that's where the Rigpa lies. And in Mahayoga, in Hatha Yoga, the distinction is not made between the wisdoms. There's only one wisdom, and that's pristine awareness itself. We had a very good day yesterday as termination of the Kora, not termination, it's not such a good word, but the consummation of the Kora, the closing of the ring of the Kora. It was a little bit demanding in the rain and the wind and we had a couple of casualties that last day. But then the lake of awareness from the mountain of skillful means, we go to the lake of awareness, and there's the rainbow and the Guru Rinpoche cave and the Guru icons and the bathing in the lake, and the vibe was very high and satisfying. As if there was a certain degree of closure in those actions and in the principal part of the pilgrimage. Yes, of course, the going and the coming, that was also important. But those actions around Kailash and at Manasarava, these were very satisfying. Different means different things for different people. Of course it does. No, and we're not trying to impose this single pattern upon all the participants. People got different things out of it, and actually, of course, they had different expectations. Some of the people were happy just that they physically got around the mountain, and that's not to diminish the physical experience at all. Of course, it's a unitary experience, whether you look at it from body's point of view of body, speech, or mind. You see yourself as a pilgrim, or as a striver, as a seeker, or as a bodhisattva, or as a yogi. And this kind of experience, this kind of pilgrimage, confirms such a vision of oneself, whatever that may be. Whatever, it's not necessarily a high Buddhahood or whatever, but it confirms a certain, you could call it, confirms a certain bodhisattva level, for example. Did you make our three?
Yes.
But the pilgrimage itself is capable of actually disintegrating that
duality,
original
dualism.
This dualism paradigm. Yes. And now, if that had occurred in the minds of some of the participants, I think that would be a wonderful and very positive product. Because then you've got the feeling, or the sensation, the intuition of the non-duality of the object. But I like that analogy of René Dumas, I think it was, that enlightenment, or the realization is arriving back to the starting point and recognizing it for the first time. Or was that T.S. Eliot? So perforce, this union is made between the physical and the spiritual. And that's what we set out to achieve right from the beginning, from their arrival in Lhasa, was a unity of ordinary, daily events and misadventure and the spiritual life, and the non-separation of these two things. So any kind of spiritual life that you can separate from the ordinary daily round is to be cut off. Once you know the identity of awareness and form in a formless experience, then you can do that anywhere, and you can take it anywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's Tibet or New York. It's still the same human experience doing it. You achieve some kind of realization in this totally alien environment, free of your old habits. And you go back and back into your old environment, and it's nothing has changed. Wise sadhu, or the Buddhist monk, loses his name, loses his family, loses his whole family history, his social history, and takes to the cave in order to free himself from all that genetic, can you say genetic, all of that conditioning.
Yeah.
I said conformative. And if confirmative could actually include some sense of greater awareness of the old environment, the old milieu, then you're way ahead. Transformative. Transformative doesn't necessarily mean the total change of environment, mental or external environment. Transformative can mean transformation from darkness into light, or from stupidity into some attention and awareness, or from ignorance to wisdom, better. I think it had very many aspects to it and facets, but probably the one that was closest to the front of my mind was the sense of this Kailash program as a closeness to death, as the climb up to the Dharma as not just merely a metaphor, but actually a paradigm, or a reflection of a death experience. The pilgrimage as an entering into the bardo. You could get that experience in various ways, but the pilgrimage has an extension through days, and goes through various degrees and stages. Well, in this way, it is like a near-death experience, where things, where one's karma comes home to hit one, and in the stuff that arises in the mind over those days, particularly at the times of complete exhaustion, the stuff that arises in the mind completely uncontrolled and unfiltered is kind of karmic uprisings and reflections of one's life, one's...
And what is the approach? How can we handle those karmic uprisings?
The same way we handle any of it is still watching the nature of mind. That's the only instruction, is without any inhibition, without any cultivation, simply to watch whatever arises in its clear, pure nature. That's whatever, that's instruction in life, in death, in meditation, in the bardo, in every situation whatsoever, in pilgrimage too. Well, in the 360-degree view, there's no shadow. It's a complete. It's the view of a plenitude. It's the view of completion. And yes, I suppose a 360-degree a camera view is a paradigm of that, except, of course, that the reality is constantly changing. As the hammer of view is fixation. Well, it is what I label radical Dzogchen, and it seems to me that in his Nelutzer Longchen Jumper collected the verses, the precepts that most clearly and most incisively indicate the nature of the non-dual Dzogchen realization. In the Flight of the Garuda, yes, there's this wonderful verses in there, but it's a preparatory text, an introductory kind of text. It's not something that gives you the whole thing whoom, like this, complete. I mean, there may be other texts that have the same force as the Nelutzer, but this is the one that I've come across and which I spent my time with. As for Beretsana, yes, those songs, those verses were what appeared to those 8th century Tibetans as having most import for them in all the scriptures that came from India and from outside, from China, and really subsumed their reality in the way that was perfected. There may be some discipline, some dialectic, some manner of thinking or arguing in that man has devised in his highest periods of civilized expression that is similar to Dzogchen or fulfills a similar function to Dzogchen. But anyway, I don't know it. But that's not the point. The point is that Dzogchen is what we've got here and has been given to us as a living tradition by the Tibetan Lamas at the end of the 20th century, and which we can work with. This is the significant fact about Dzogchen. I think in this period of the coming out of Dzogchen, this last 30, 40 years, the main necessity has been the translation of authoritative texts rather than the subjective rendition by a limited mind coming out of another culture. Of course, there's been some turning of the text in the translation. That's another argument, another question. But it's important to be able to show what the Dzogchen is fairly closely to its origins. The next generation can start refashioning it according to the cultural requirements and more linguistic needs. So, maybe we shouldn't underestimate the degree of subjective interpretation that goes into translation, particularly in a language like Tibetan or like Chinese. It's not so, to Sanskrit or any Indo-European language, it's not so much open to that kind of subjective interpretation. But and other translators will see a lot of me, for instance, in my translation that was not in the original.
And in the commentaries.
Mm-hmm.
And in the commentaries.
And the commentaries, of course.
Which express very much your understanding and your... Maybe out of context, but doesn't the situation in Israel gives a very powerful look into the teachings and practice?
Into the?
Practice and the teachings. I mean, the fact that there is such a complicated situation there entails. Doesn't it have any special meaning for you going there and teach in this situation?
Well, on one level, on one conceptual level, yes, of course, it's the Judaic Christian tradition that has created so much strife, conflict, misery in its dualism, out of its dualism. But actually, that's really irrelevant. That's a point of argument in some larger discussion. When you actually go to Israel, and you're talking to ordinary people, and they're not down in Gaza shooting up the Arabs daily. They're just trying to get on with their lives and with the same kind of difficulties as we are anywhere in the world. That's really the context of me teaching there, and in general I go where I'm invited. So no, I think the answer to that is that there is an intensity there, but actually I think it works on the negative side. People are not projected towards Buddhism out of a heightened awareness of the nature of reality created by the conflict. I don't think that's how it is. I think rather they get hunkered down in their own little dogmatic caves. And they need sounding out. I think we have to realize that the strata of society which I actually hit in Mexico is just a very fine segment of the whole pyramid of society there. And this the strata is avant-garde, intellectual, highly aware, freeing itself from Christian roots and all kinds of doctrinaire culture. And that's the arena that I enter. Now, for me, I'm looking rather beyond this little segment. I'm looking through it at this much broader sweep of mind, of culture and awareness, and that's very interesting. And it's got this zing in it that I don't think necessarily Mexicans are aware of it. People, Europeans, and coming to Mexico get a hit off Mexico that Mexicans are really unaware of because of this cultural mix and the infiltration of the ancient civilization of the modern colonial European. It's very exciting actually for somebody coming in from outside. I'm not sure that the Dzogchen in its original form, in its Tibetan form, is large enough to capture a large segment of Mexican society. I think that the way that we're going in Mexico, which is the assimilation of some of these Indian roots, is a much more viable mode rather than just this very pure Dzogchenati yoga. I mean the assimilation of psychotropic experience within the whole religious experience of Buddhism, within a Buddhist context. But this, of course, is very controversial. Very interesting, though, but quite exciting. So Mexican Buddhism needs to be separated from American, from European, from Asian Buddhism. It needs its own, needs to develop its own particular forms. That's not so easy because it's been constantly bombarded from outside by other approaches. Why have the mosquitoes disappeared? Yeah.
After the rain.
There's just a few spots of rain and they vanished.